1970 genres, yet another video. This is my third episode looking at classic albums from that year. I hope you're still with me. I've got three of them today, and I want to make a brief announcement as well before I get started. Following some sort of sharing of messages between me and a member of the vinyl community who I have a lot of respect for and enjoy the videos, I am going to start to do videos that are perhaps more often seen by the variety of channels, and that is I'm going to be displaying my vinyl collection, a few albums at a time, based on the fact that I was advised that this would go down well. It's not what I've been doing, but I'm prepared to sort of compromise for the sake of the customer. And in addition, I'm also going to do my cassette collections, seeing as physical formats seem to be the way forward, and also my CD collection. So you'll be having me putting things in my hand and shoving them into the camera. Wow, whoopee. Three classic albums. This is the second album in 1970 released by the British band based in Leicester, Family, and it was called A Song for Me. The band here mixed acoustic guitars and really heavy songs. They lost a bit of the textures provided by Jim King, who played sax, flute and harmonica, but Polly Palmer joined the band and kept some fine flute work in the band's repertoire, and his strength also lied in the vibraphone as displayed on the album. It was released, as I say, in late 69, but I'm putting it in 70. Their first album then with John Wider on bass and Polly Palmer on keyboards, flute and vibraphone. The past several months had been full of setbacks for the band. Rick Gretsch had left for Blind Faith, Jim King forced to leave for getting too deep into drugs, and their first US tour proved to be an absolute disaster. Although many of the songs had been written with King's saxophone in mind, Charlie Whitney and Roger Chapman were able to rework them with Palmer's instruments, and Palmer quickly made himself integral to Family's sound. And because some of these songs had been debuted in live performances in the previous year, many Family fans found themselves getting accommodated to arrangements that had radically altered and were different from what they expected. So Much of a Song for Me shows Family exploring various popular formats, from jazz and blues to folk and country. So let's get on to the tracks. Family album that I bought on vinyl, and I must admit I've got a soft spot for it. So I'm going to rush through the tracks now. It opens up with Drowned in Wine, with a delicate Whitney acoustic intro, and then the power hits you, accompanied by soaring Chapman vocals. There's some wild flute that keeps up the tight-ass pace, and the second phase is really very folk rockish. Great fast stuff with guitar, flute montages segue into the second song, Some Poor Soul. Roger's mellowness is in stark contrast here. It's a very bluesy song, classy acoustic again from Whitney. It's got a Spanish-like feel to it, and Palmer's flute certainly adds that flavour. A nice solo from him. It creates a very pleasing overall sound. Love is a Sleeper is next. It's a flurry of guitar and vibraphone at a very speedy rate. Rockabilly for sure, but very English style rockabilly. There's a credit of one Zoot Money on this, who was involved in the Animals, and I read Stop for the Traffic is synced into the track, follows on from Love is a Speaker. The full title of that, Stop for the Traffic Through the Heart of Me. As I say, the second part of this two tracks knitted together. The vocals are echoed back in the mix. There's a lot of reverb guitar. It's nice enough. calm in comparison though to the early rock of Drowned in Wine. Wheels, which is the closer on side one. Slightly dark beginning with some shimmering vibrato from Chapman, and then some delicate acoustic work mixed with flute and organ leads into the chorus, and that follows on with some heavy acoustic guitar and vibes too. This is an interesting structured song that they develop into an eccentric arrangement, but the solo guitar parts sound a little too improvised for me. A chilling scream from Chapman throws into the desperate solos, and I've been told that, as opposed to other shredders in rock music, he has said that he found the techniques that were not detrimental to his throat. I wonder. To the second side then, Song for Sinking Lovers. It's got a rolling banjo-like melody that links to Chapman's familiar, gentler vocals before the violin wheedles into the beat, almost breaking into a folky barroom Irish-style banjo jig, with Charlie well involved on dobro. It then segs into Hey Lady Rock, a very jazzy lounge feel with vibraphone and Roger's vocals reflecting very much the tone. The Cat and the Rat, well, an out-and-out 12-bar country blues, rockabilly style. It's a real stomp. Cute lead licks by Whitney, and snorting Chapman vocals. Terrific stuff. Home straight now. 93's OKJ is next. Much more experimental, this one, light jazz tones. It's got a touch of harpsichord in there, and piano and flute, and they combine to create a sort of mystic Eastern atmosphere. The percussion and drumming is thrown in, coupled with the strings, to make quite a unique sound as they link towards the outro. And then the title track to wrap it all up, a song for me. This is very typical blues rock with a taste of violin at the start. It's a 9-minute blockbuster. Whitney dominates with whooping bass lines, and it's a jam, but a good one. The violin is weirdly eccentric, a bit like a cross on King Crimson, and for a few minutes it becomes very strange indeed before the rush towards the finish line. This still holds up extremely well, this album, and I enjoyed listening to it, harking back to those 1970s days. The combination of Chapman and Whitney, which is basically the grounding on this band, truly terrific. And if you haven't caught Family before, this is probably just as good a place to start on this 1970s sort of recollecting those classic albums. I'm going to spend a few moments talking about Band of Gypsys, which was basically the new band launched by one Jimi Hendrix after the Experience had sort of basically given up after the Electric Ladyland double album. Hendrix wanted to move in different directions, and he put together this band, a couple of his old buddies, Billy Cox on bass and Buddy Miles on drums. Miles, of course, was an artist in his own right, and had a number of albums released. But it was remarkable, this live set. It took place on January 1st, 1970 at the Fillmore East in New York City. And it was the first time that Hendrix used the fuzz face wah-wah pedal. Univibe and Octavia pedals as well were used on stage for the first time. And we certainly got a taste of their usage, particularly on Machine Gun. This is one of Jimmy's probably finest live performances. He was very focused, very precise. It was almost perfection. The music was a seamless melding of rock, funk, and R&B, and the tunes like Message to Love and Power to Love showed a new lyrical direction as well, and his mastery of the guitar absolutely blew my mind and probably all those who were present. And the two Buddy Miles compositions, Message to Love and Power to Love, are much better than the versions on his own studio albums. But although those two played their part, Jimmy was the star of the show, and I'm now going to go through the tracks. When one listens to this live set is how relaxed the place was, how relaxed Jimmy was, and it comes through in the music. He opened up with Who Knows, 9 minutes plus, a powerful, intense, funky song, loose meaning in the zone. And I love Miles's vocals on here. The second set of vocals, they shared them. The lead runs are absolutely breathtaking on this first track. No flashness, just plain performance on the guitar that is unbelievable. And just listen to the stunning wah-wah use in the latter part of the track. Well, this was really only the sort of first course. The main event, the main course, tripped up a little bit later with Machine Gun, which was 12 minutes 38. It rewrote really the guitar manual. The guitar is a gun, a bomb, and other master strokes unheard elsewhere, and basically confirmed his status as a guitar god, head and shoulders above all. I suggest you just listen with a keen ear. Arguably the most groundbreaking and devastating guitar solo ever put on record. So after that, we got to side 2, Changes. 5 minute 11 here. This is Miles' song, a soul classic, of course, and the wah-wah intro sets up some fierce guitar work. Politics runs through this set, and particularly with this song, and the lyric is striking. Miles is very strong and it really swings. Power to Love is next, a delicate intro by Jimmy before he launches the explosive solo out of the park. Power and precision with his renowned feedback before rejoining the rhythm and generating that blues sound that ripples with such intricate velocity. Extraordinary mastery of rhythm and lead pieces woven together like a painting's masterpiece. No overindulgence, just constantly moving around the fretboard. Is next. It starts up with such versatility. The soul is ferocious, and the masterful, almost recycling of the rhythm, a highlight. Great drumming as well from Miles. The wah-wah is absolutely extraordinary here, and the feedback at the outro, of course, only he could have carried that out and got away with it. And then the passing sing-along, the party piece, We Gotta Live Together, a jam, a blues jam. It's so funky, it's straight out of the Meters, the New Orleans band, I felt early on. But before Jimmy takes over and he explodes with a Miles roar that's followed by that solo that blisteringly fast. And the finale is at a ferocious pace, with Hendrix and Miles off the charts in terms of speed and dexterity. And a big thank you to Billy Cox for his bass work. Okay, this is still remarkable, this 1970 live take. Hendrix referring to the soldiers fighting in Vietnam. It really moved me tremendously, and it's one of the greatest live albums I've ever heard. Hope you enjoy it. If you haven't heard this, please spend a minute, get on YouTube and listen to it, particularly side 1. On this classic episode 3, 1970s, is another live album, Get Your Yayas Out by the Rolling Stones. The title is taken from a Blind Boy Fuller song, Get Your Yayas Out. I didn't know that, but I've added it in. The lyric in Fuller's song was, now you've got to leave my house this morning. don't, I'll throw your yayas out of the door. Okay, in the context of Fuller's original song and its use in other blues music, yayas appears as a folky euphemism for ass. Some of the performances, as well as one of the 2 photography sessions for the album cover featuring Charlie Watts and a donkey, are depicted in the documentary film Gimme Shelter, a movie that I have seen, and I'm probably going to watch it again. It shows how Watts and Jagger on a section of the M6 motorway adjacent to a rail depot near Birmingham put this cover together, posing with a donkey. It's adjacent to an RAC building, and these are a sort of rescue service of cars in need. And the cover photo was taken in early February 1970 in London, and it does originate from the 1969 session. The photo by David Bailey, featuring Watts with guitars and bass drums hanging from the neck of a donkey, was inspired by a line in Dylan's song Visions of Johanna. Jewels and binoculars also hang from the head of the mule. Well, it's quite remarkable, that cover, and certainly easily recognisable. They said of the type, we originally wanted an elephant, but had to settle for a donkey. And of course, this album was released just before Let It Bleed. And first opener, Jumping Jack Flash, Madison Square Guns in 1969. They were all recorded in 1969. Raucous reception, and it's go, go, go. Furious Watts, Wyman rhythms. And of course, Mick has to point out at the end of this great opener that he busted a bottom on his trousers. Busted a button, not a bottom. And that leads us into Carol, a Chuck Berry song. It's very Richards Richards driven, weaves his magic with Taylor, of course, who was virtually making his debut live for the Stones after the demise of Brian Jones. The tight-ass rhythm is strikingly hot, and there's some neat piano from Stewart that hits a high point. Track 3, we've got Stray Clap Blues. I love this song from the Beggar's Banquet sessions. It's a lovely slow blues with Jagger very sleazy. And then another one that I love, Love in Vain, the Robert Johnson classic, with Jagger awesome telling the tale, one of the saddest songs of all time, and the slide guitar bleeds on this. Great work by Taylor, it has to be said. And then the closer on the opening side is the Midnight Rambler. This is a 9-minute monster, really, with inspired harmonica by Mick, and it's a real in-your-face rocker that grinds to a halt midway before re-exploding through the twin guitar work as it gets back into gear and resurfaces as nasty as ever. It epitomised why they were the greatest rock and roll band in the world. So it starts off with Sympathy for the Devil, much slower version of the album, and it's more sort of stripped back, none of the sort of shenanigans really, but Taylor once again showed us his lead touches on it. It lacks the flamboyance of the album, but you know, Charlie Watts' drumming is really solid and really powerful. Live With Me comes up next. It's from Let It Bleed, of course, pretty steady rock. Little Queenie, another Chuck Berry track thrown in next. And it's a reminder very much of those early Stones records back in the early to mid 60s. And I love it. Then we get the other big hit, Honky Tonk Woman, blues rendition of this hit. It's much slower, much more smoochy, and a real bash with some nice piano from Stewart. And then we finish off with Street Fighting Man. It's a blast. Taylor, again, really influential. He excels and rounds it off very nicely indeed. This is a strong live album, and for its time, it was a bit of a blast, really. I don't think it's quite up to the Hendrix one that I've reviewed earlier, but it's still extremely strong. No surprises from the greatest rock and roll band in the land, but it's in your face, and the band are all at the top of their game. So there we are. There'll be slides, of course, for the songs, the personnel of these 3 albums. No lyric sheets this time out. It's all pretty familiar. But that's it for episode 3, Classic Rock. Hope you enjoyed it.